Hi everyone, my name is Ria Shah and I'm super excited to be part of the Tempus debate organization this year. A little bit about me, I'm a senior at Hoover High School. Go Bucks. I've done public forum debate for about 7 years now, and I've loved every second of it. And for just some background, I am from Hoover High School, and Hoover's debate team is one that isn't really well funded. We don't have a coach, we're completely student-led. And I know a lot of you guys watching this video are kind of in the same boat in the sense that you may not have the same access to private coaches, briefs, a lot of time and resources to as some of your peers in other debate programs may have. And Tempus is really great in that sense because it's going to just even the playing field in this beautiful activity. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get straight into this lecture, which is just going to be a simple intro to PF. So I'll just share my screen. There we go. And all right. If we can present there. All right, so what is PF? So obviously PF stands for public forum. And if you guys are familiar with the term public forum, you might think of public discourse, debate about current events, about things that are relevant, which is super similar to the style of debate. So I'm going to come back to this slide. So just a little bit about public forum debate. They are all current events topics, anything from different sectors of the economy, foreign policy, domestic politics. We kind of cover basically everything, and that it's one of the things that makes public forum so special than the other kinds of debates, because everything that you'll learn through the topics, you'll see in your history class, in your English class, and you'll be able to make such strong connections and increase your awareness of what's going on in the world. So throughout these lectures, you're going to be hearing a lot about how we should debate, what kind of evidence we should use, different strategies, the structures of your speeches, but it's important to keep in mind that at the end of the day, debate is one of those activities that really places a high importance on not only the words you say, but also how you say them. Your hand gestures, your eye contact, the confidence in your voice can make or break a debate. So that's just something to keep in mind as you go throughout these lectures. So, as I said, the topics in all of the public forum debates are going to be real-world topics, and they're worded as a resolution, which means basically it's solving a problem concerning something going on in the real world. So an example of a topic, the one from September, was the United States federal government should enact the Medicare for All Act of 2019. So some of you guys may already be familiar with this if you debated it, or if you just, watched the presidential debates or have heard about Medicare for All and the horrible state of healthcare in our country. But you see, it's a super relevant current topic. And another thing to keep in mind is that it is worded as a resolve, meaning that basically almost every public forum topic takes something in the status quo, and status quo is going to be a really important term to learn. Status quo basically just means the state of current affairs, so what the world looks like now. And the affirmative side of the resolution is going to change something about the status quo, maybe to make it better, maybe to make it worse. And then the negative side, or the con side, is going to argue for keeping it the same. So right here, let's see if you guys can figure out what stance the affirmative or pro side would take, and what side the con or negative side would take on the resolution. The United States federal government should enact the Medicare for All Act of 2019. So if you guys said the pro side would argue that they should enact the Medicare for All Act, then you're correct. And the negative would be they should not enact this Medicare for All Act, because in the status quo, we don't have Medicare for all. So a really good debater takes this topic and picks apart every single word, every single phrase in it, and really gets a thorough understanding of everything that it implies or entails. So right here, you want to identify the actors. What is doing the action? The United States federal government is doing the action. And you want to know all the ins and outs of the Medicare for All Act of 2019. Maybe there's a Medicare for All Act of 2018, and you want to be very clear on those differences. Not this resolution, but some resolutions will have words that could alter in their definitions. For example, we had one that was like the federal government should prioritize spending on a certain thing. In that topic, you would have to define what does prioritize spending mean. And sometimes, that can get a little bit nitpicky. So going back to these couple of slides. So I don't know if I had mentioned this before, but public forum, it's it's you and your partner. So it's 2v2 debate. And that has a lot of benefits in my opinion. First is, you have somebody there in the round with you, and that makes it a lot less intimidating and just makes the experience more fun. Secondly, it's easier to tackle a whole topic's worth of information with two people rather than one. And it just makes, debating fun. You can develop really good relationships with your partner. But at the same time, it is super, super important that you have good communication with them, because in order for you to win a round, both you and your partner have to be on the same page and have to argue efficiently together. And I've seen in a lot of cases where there wasn't that partner synergy, and it can really break apart a team. So within a pair, you and your partner, there's going to be a first speaker and a second speaker, and I'll go over some of those differences. So a first speaker is going to present the initial case, and the initial case, as you can see here, is called the constructive. It's a 4-minute case, and this is pre-written, and you're going to write about whatever side, if you're pro or con, you're going to write a 4-minute speech about why the judge should vote for that side specifically, and that's pre-written. The other speech the first speaker gives is called a summary speech. This is a 3-minute long speech, probably one of the hardest speeches in the round, and you're basically, as its name suggests, summarizing the round and talking about impacts, which is something you'll learn a little bit later on. The second speaker, which is what I am, second speaker, gives the rebuttal and final focus. So rebuttal, like the constructive, is also 4 minutes long, and in the rebuttal, you're kind of doing the opposite as you did in the constructive. So in the constructive, you present a case for your side, and the rebuttal, you're going to argue against the case presented by your opponents when they argued for their side. So that's obviously more impromptu because you don't know what your opponents are going to say. And then the final focus, it's very similar to the summary, just a little bit more condensed because it is 2 minutes instead of 3. So you'll see you're going to alternate between you and your partner. You're both going to give 2 speeches, and same for your opponents. In between each of the constructives, rebuttal, and after summary, you'll see something called a crossfire. Crossfire is very fun, but it can get very heated. So you'll learn about some different tips. I think Ariel will be talking about that later on, but it's like a question and answer time. Not so much question and answer than trying to make your opponent look stupid in front of the judge, and you'll see what that means later on. So this is a little bit more about the round structure, and all of these slides are going to be posted on the site, so you guys can go back and look at anything you might have missed. But like it says here, there's a coin flip before the round that's going to determine who goes on what side and if you're going to be speaking first or second. Okay, so research, obviously one of the most important parts of debate, especially because public forum deals with current events topics that often change. I remember, I think it was a debate about if we should put sanctions on Venezuela. When we were at the tournament, the topic itself was actively updating, like things were going on in Venezuela as we were at that debate tournament. So we had to, change some of our evidence throughout the day, which was kind of cool. So just some research tips. So we saw right here, this is the topic: the United States federal government should enact the Medicare for All Act of 2019. Your first instinct might just be to copy and paste that into Google. Don't do that. What you should do is first get a general understanding of the topic. What is Medicare for All? The best thing to do, 2 tips. First one, use Wikipedia. Don't use Wikipedia as a source, so don't cite Wikipedia, but it is a great place to get a summary and a general understanding of the topic. Second place I would look is Vox. So if you look up on YouTube, Vox videos, usually for some reason, Vox always has a video about every single debate topic that we've done. So very good animations, really good summary, get a good understanding of the topic. And then you want to start your research. So the way I usually go about doing this is on the Wikipedia page. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of citations to different articles. So scour those. Um, keep an open mind. This means that, let's say I'm trying to find a piece of evidence that says Medicare for all is going to increase jobs, and that's the piece of evidence that I really need to find. If I come across a piece of evidence along the way that says Medicare for all is going to decrease jobs, I don't want to glance over that. That's a really important piece of evidence. It might not be exactly what I'm looking for, but I want to put that in whatever document I have for my evidence so I can refer to it later on. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be arguing both sides of this resolution. Use your team to your advantage. You can split up different topics and each research those. Oftentimes when you're researching a certain argument, you'll find blocks or arguments against that argument within the same article. So keep those in mind. Use briefs. Some examples are Champions, Victory, West Coast. Briefs are basically like hundreds and hundreds of pages of cards and blocks. So people that have a lot of time on their hands, I guess, just compile a lot of research and make it easy for us to access. If your school doesn't have access to these, which Hoover doesn't, we use Reddit trading. So we'll have some cards and we'll say, you want to trade me? If you give me Champions, I'll give you my cards. And that's a good way to get briefs. Evidence credibility. I think this is becoming more of a problem in public forum debate, but I cannot stress the importance of this. At the end of the day, if we don't have credible evidence, there's absolutely no point to the debate, right? I know I've been in rounds where people say there's a 75% chance of nuclear war, which doesn't really make sense. Some guy somewhere probably said it, but it isn't the most credible thing to say. To have knowledgeable, good, deep debates and discussions in general, evidence is a necessity, but credible evidence is a must. Finally, you want to avoid a heavy reliance on any given piece of evidence. It's called debate, which implies that it is not only about the evidence, but how you are using the evidence. The evidence and the prep that you do beforehand is only one part of the debate. The fun part happens in the round. It's establishing clash with your opponents and interacting with their arguments, not reciting pre-written speeches. We leave the speech team to do that. But again, debate is about argumentation. So the ideal debater would succeed and win no matter what evidence they use, because they are just so good at using that evidence, using their logic and analysis to bring them further in the round. You also, when you're doing research, on the flip side of that, you want to research everything you possibly can. That means anticipate every single argument that you can and have a general understanding of it and have arguments against it if you can. So if we think of atoms being the building block of the universe, cards are the building blocks of the debate universe. Cards are unit pieces of evidence. These are pieces of evidence that you use in every single speech: constructive, rebuttal, summary, final focus, even crossfire. And this is kind of the format of them. So at the top, the way that we use evidence in debate is by using the last name of the author and the year it was written. And just a little bit more about evidence credibility. If you're debating Medicare for all and one of your cards is from the 1950s, probably isn't the most credible. So just keep that in mind. So here we have Archer 20. So some guy or girl, I guess, Diane Archer wrote this on March 11th, 2020. And then you usually have a tagline, which is the idea of the card. So right here is, why aren't hospitals getting paid? And the citation, basically, you have your last name, first name of the author, year was published, title of the article, link to the article in case you need it in a round. So again, in PF debate, even though it shouldn't rely so much on evidence, a lot of it does, and often your opponents will ask you to provide in the round a specific piece of evidence. So in cases like this, you have it linked right here so you can show them the exact article. And then you have the text. So a cool thing about debate is, like, if you guys have written essays in school, you're not allowed to say word for word what an article says. In debate, you're supposed to say word for word what an article says. So right here, the text of the card basically copy and pasted from an article and bolded, highlighted, underlined, whatever the main portions. And what you'll do is, some people will talk about this later on, but use these cards to piece together your blocks, to piece together your case. So here's a couple of more resources. We have Site Creator, which is a Chrome extension, and then Debate Template, which is an add-on to Google Docs. Debate Template is my favorite. This is what I use for my block sheet as well. The way that you can put this in is if you go to Help and just type in outline, you'll see an option that says Insert Outline, and then you'll see the pop-up menu, which you can see to the left of that screen right here, and it just makes it super easy to navigate between all of your evidence. But keep it super organized. In the round, you don't want to be scrabbling for whatever card your opponent asks you to provide. So using whatever system you can is really key. So now it's your turn. So we have 4 articles here. Some of them are credible, some of them are not. So first thing is find the ones that are credible. And second thing is try cutting a card. And cutting a card basically just means putting it in this format. All right, so that is the end of this lecture. I put my contact information right here. You guys can email me with whatever questions you have. If you have, a cool debate article, funny joke, whatever it may be, here's my email. So I hope you guys will use it. And I really wish you luck on your debate adventures. I know there will be plenty of fun. And I had a lot of fun doing this. Until next time.